Each class in Orsay Labs goes through a life cycle, and when you're delivering a class, you'll notice the different states that a class can be in. In this video, we're going to run through an example class showing each of the different states and the behavior associated with each state. Now, I already have a class set up. This is actually a 2-day class, and it's scheduled to start today. Of course, since this class hasn't started yet, you'll notice I have the Start Class button, and also I do not yet have access to either my instructor labs or the student labs. So as the instructor, I'll go ahead and start that class here when I'm ready. Now, the labs for this particular class were set up for me to start them manually when I'm ready. So I'll go ahead and start those labs now. In this example, there's only an instructor and one student, but of course, a typical class is going to have more students, and those would all be listed here. This class is now started, and I have a couple of labs which are running. Here in the Classroom tab, you'll see that there is an option to pause the class. So let's talk about when we'd want to do that. Now, if this is a multi-day class, you could pause the class at the end of the first day. Pausing the class is going to shut down the remote connection server, and therefore it's going to help reduce costs. This will, however, prevent students from accessing their labs. It's going to prevent me as an instructor from accessing my lab as well. So you wouldn't want to pause the class if you think someone is still using those labs. On the second day of class, when you access the Classroom tab, you'll see the Start button again, since the class was paused at the end of yesterday. My labs down here are also paused due to inactivity. So to get everything ready for the second day, you'll just start that class again and also go ahead and resume those labs. Now, at the end of the last day of class, you won't see that pause option like we did yesterday. Since it's the last day, you would just end the class when class is over. You wouldn't want to do this until everyone is finished with their work, because you can see here that it is going to shut down their labs. It's going to take a restore point of those labs, so they would not automatically be able to get into those labs once we end that class. So you'll make sure everyone's kind of done with their work for the day, and then you can go ahead and end anything, and I'll say yes there, and it will go ahead and shut those labs down. When the class ends, you'll get an email explaining some important information about that class. I mentioned earlier that when we ended the class, restore points for those labs were taken. This is letting us know that we will automatically keep those restore points around until a certain date. We automatically keep those around for 1 week. I'll show you how to extend that date if necessary. If I need to get to any of those labs, maybe someone has decided that they need something off of one of the machines, I can go to that class page and reactivate that class as well, so it's letting me know that. And the last thing it's letting me know is if I know for sure that we're done with everything and no one's going to need access to those labs again, if I'm confident in that, I can go ahead and finalize that class on that class page. So let's just click here and take a look at some of those options. So here is where if I decided that someone needs to get something off of any of those labs, I can resume that class. If I decide that we're definitely done and no one needs anything off of those backups, I can go ahead and finalize that. If I think based on this particular class, we might need to keep things around for a little bit longer, I can go ahead and extend that date. I can see here that currently that date is on August 29th in this example. I can go ahead and extend that, and that's going to buy me an extra week. You can continue to extend that date for as much as 30 days. So that can be handy if you're just not sure people are done with those labs and you want to be confident that they're around until people need them. You can go ahead and continue to extend that finalization date. So to recap what we talked about here with Class Lifecycle, when you begin a new class, you'll use that Start button to go ahead and start the class. If it's not the last day of class, you'll have the option to pause that class. Pausing the class at the end of the day can help cut down on a little bit of cost, so that can be helpful. And then on the last day of class, you can go ahead and end the class. When the class is ended, remember we take backups of those labs, so if you need to access the instructor or any of the student labs, you can come in here and resume that class, and that'll allow you to access those resources. We automatically keep everything around for a week. But if you decide you want to keep things around longer for a particular class, you can come in here and choose to extend that finalization date for up to 30 days.